Hey guys, this week we are going up against Pants R Dragon, so all hands on deck. I'm giving away $70 worth of RP, and quarterback is also giving away some awesome rewards as well. If you get 1,000 trophies, you'll get 10k quarterback coins, and if you get 2,000 trophies, you'll get 25k quarterback coins, which is easily enough to get a free skin. Also, if you are the MVP, you'll get a bonus 10k quarterback coins. Come join me in quarterback and let's take Pants out. In this video, I'm not here to tell you that it's all your fault. Stop blaming your teammates and get good kid focus on yourself. The simple fact of the matter is doing well yourself by either out CSing your opponent in lane or killing them a couple of times is not enough to consistently win games. Yes, it certainly won't hurt, but it's usually not enough to be climbing with the 55% and higher win rate, because it doesn't really matter how well you do in your lane. 90% of the time you'll have at least one person on your team who feeds to counteract how well you're doing. This can lead to some vicious mental cycles where you don't try as hard, or you lose your fire to try 100% because you believe you have roughly a 50% chance of winning no matter how well you play. Every single League of Legends player has fallen into this mental trap at some point, which is why in this video I'm going to be giving you 5 tips how to avoid feeding teammates, and I'm also going to be showing you how to get the most out of your teammates. All 5 of these things you can do starting the very next game, guaranteed. They don't require any better micro, so don't worry, you don't need to main Zed or Lee Sin. Before we start on the tips, there's something that you really need to understand. If you're someone who feels like you always have feeders in your games, you need to realize that you are the only common denominator. Yes, you will have games that are simply unwinnable because of a Rager, feeder, or AFK. However, out of 10 games, if you are playing well, theoretically, you should be winning at least half, if not more. Once again, the reason I'm telling you this is not to say get good kid, it is to tell you this so you will recognize that there are things you can do better. That way you can absorb the rest of these tips without denying them because you think, well, it's all my teammates' fault. There's nothing I can do in general to improve my win rate. And that leads us into my heartwarming story involving my girlfriend. She'd played roughly 50 ranked games and had a 36% win rate at the start of this season. All of these games were in solo queue. She would constantly tell me how bad her teammates were, and even though she'd win lane, she'd get a kill or two in lane, she'd poke down the enemies, it didn't matter. She'd just lose game after game after game. I told her that she was the only common denominator out of those games, and that really sunk in. And then she realized that for her to win more games, she would have to prevent her teammates from feeding. And once she started using these 5 tips, she soloed all the way from gold into plat with a 76% win rate. Tip number 1 is dodging. Every single game of League of Legends starts in champ select at the very beginning. Copy and paste the whole lobby into either OPGG or Professor GG. Both of those, you can quickly and easily see your teammates' main champions, what they're good at, what they're bad at, and if they're on a lose streak or a win streak. The rules for dodging are if you have 2 or more teammates who are on a 3 or more game lose streak, especially if they're playing the same champion in your game that they're on the lose streak with, you dodge. If you have 2 or more teammates that are not playing their main roles or champions, especially if it's a high skill cap champion like Lee Sin or Nidalee, then you dodge. Obviously, any champ select terrorists, you dodge those too. So anyone who says I'm going to run it down, feed, they're calling your mom names and champ select and they're threatening to feed, anything like that, you dodge. You lose a little bit of LP, but it does not affect your MMR. MMR determines how much LP you win per game. I know this tip is given a lot, but if you aren't using it by now, you're clearly not that dedicated to climbing and you're not taking it seriously. Think of appropriate dodging as a way to filter your teammates. If you refuse to filter your teammates, you deserve every single troll and half-ass player on your team. Yes, it is a little bit inconvenient, but after you get into the habit of it, you'll be doing it without even thinking about it. Tip number 2, you really need to optimize your bans. This is quite easy as long as you're following tip number 1. You do it the same way. After you copy and paste the lobby with all your teammates and yourself into OPGG or Professor.gg, you will be able to see what your teammates main and what they're good at. Obviously, you don't want to ban what they're good at. For example, if you have a Yasuo main on your team, you don't want to ban Yasuo, and a lot of you are probably saying, well, Yasuo could just hover Yasuo and then I won't ban him. The issue is he might not hover him because he might be watching YouTube, he might be eating cereal, he might be talking to his mom. You don't know what that Yasuo player is capable of. So you might end up banning his champion, which will not only make him suck, but he might even take it out on you even though it's not really your fault, and he'll pick something he's not good at, or he might troll around. Secondly, after you quickly check what your teammates are good at and you realize that none of your normal bans conflict with what they normally pick, then you want to hold on to your ban for as long as possible so you can make sure what needs to get banned gets banned. Oftentimes people will just ban silly things like banning Ashe or Annie or something dumb that they don't like to play against, but if you are taking the game seriously, you need to ban what's going to hurt your team. Banning OP nonsense like Karthus and Yasuo whenever you don't have those mains on your team will be a huge lifesaver and will make your games much easier. And by holding on to your ban, you're giving your teammates the opportunity to do the right thing and use their bans properly. Plus, if they do ban the OP stuff, then you can ban counter things. Let's say your top laner is auto attack based like Irelia, or you have an auto attack based mid laner like an AD carry. You're gonna wanna ban Jax, because if Jax gets through, he's gonna completely counter your team comp. Or if your support plans on picking Thresh or Blitzcrank in their first pick, you might wanna ban something like Morgana. That way they don't have to play into that. Tip number 3, if you see your teammate hovering a champion that they're not very good at or have a very shoddy history, try to friendly suggest them a better option or their best champion. Let's say they're a top lane main and they main Pantheon, but for some reason they want to play Irelia and they have a 30% win rate on her. Instead of saying you suck at Irelia or don't pick Irelia, you'd be a lot better off saying Pantheon would be perfect or Pantheon OP on this team comp, even if it's not necessarily true. Don't make a situation where you're tempting them to prove you wrong by saying you suck at Irelia. They will be very tempted to try to show you that you're wrong, or maybe just stick a thumb in your eye. Try to set up a positive situation where they can feel good about what they're doing, and you can also feel good about it because you're not getting trolled. Tip number 4, when you are in game, try not to type anything referencing negative plays or thought processes. If your mid laner calls for dragon and it's obviously a bad time to do dragon and it leads to your team getting butchered, or if it just leads to your mid laner getting caught out and dying, don't say you suck, you're bad, or wow. Anything that can be seen as threatening, you're better off typing nothing at all. Or if you are going to type something positive like it's not a big deal. It's very tempting to be impulsive and just type what's on your mind. Trust me, it's not going to help whatsoever. Oftentimes they realize how bad that play or decision was and they just won't say anything because they feel guilty or bad about it. But if you say something, they might try to retaliate, put a thumb in your eye, start feeding AFK, or they just might start being toxic in chat. At the very least, they might just mute you, which will make it really hard for you to communicate team fights or objectives in the near future. And it could really agitate you because if you ping an obvious objective or engage and they have you muted because you intentionally annoyed them, well, guess what? Now you're going to get really annoyed at them for not listening to your obvious ping because you'll think that they're intentionally trying to spite you when in reality they literally couldn't hear or see the ping. For me personally, if I'm stressed out or if I'm overly intense in a game, if I want to insult my teammate or if I want to say that their play was trash, I'll just say it out loud to myself. I won't type it, which has actually caused a lot of flack for me because when I used to stream, people would accuse me all the time of being toxic, even when I wasn't being toxic, just because I would say it out loud and I wouldn't type it. Tip number 5, which is arguably the most important tip, the mini map is a team effort. I repeat, watching, analyzing, and interpreting the mini map is a team effort. There are 3 lanes in League of Legends. 4 players make up those 3 lanes, and there's one designated person on each team, aka the jungler, who runs around and tries to ruin those lanes. That may seem like a small amount of things to keep track of, but when you take into account having to manage the CS, trying to either push it or drop back towards your turret, having to keep track of your enemies' cooldowns, having to keep track of your own cooldowns when fighting the enemies, having to manage trades, having to keep track of when they're about to level up to hit level 6. All of these things can make it very difficult for every single laner to look on the mini map. So no matter what lane you're playing, or even if you're the jungler, watching the mini map is a constant effort. And if you see something that your teammates should know about, you ping it. The two most useful pings when informing your teammates are the enemy is missing ping and the danger ping. If you see an immediate threat to your teammates, you use the danger ping, and you do not just use it, you use it at least twice. Once on the location of the designated enemy and once on your teammates directly on top of them in lane. That way they can see it directly on their screen, they can hear it, and they can see it on the minimap. If you're just keeping track of the enemy jungler and you want to let your teammates know in which direction he's going, but no one's necessarily at immediate threat of dying, try to use the enemy missing ping. The danger ping is louder and it can startle your teammates and annoy them, which might cause them to mute you. When using the enemy missing ping, use it at least 3 times since it's not quite as loud, and use it on the enemy's location. If your teammate is in direct threat, make sure you use the danger ping. When using the missing ping to indicate which direction the enemy is going, try to show it accordingly on the minimap. If you see them moving to the left, do a missing ping on that spot and then do 2 more moving in the left direction on the minimap. That way your teammates not only know where they are, but they get an idea of where they're going. It's the same thing with the danger ping. You ping where they are on the minimap, and then you can ping a line to your teammates, making sure to use at least 1 ping on your teammate's lane. But like I said, if your teammates are sensitive and they don't like the danger ping, you really don't want to be using it more than 2 or 3 times. And when looking on the minimap, don't forget, you're not just looking to see where the enemy jungler is, you also want to be scanning quickly the laners if they are where they're supposed to be, and if there's an enemy laner missing. And if you do see an enemy laner moving somewhere in a direction, you want to try to alert your teammates to that. You'll find that your teammates will really appreciate it. You'll help to stop them from feeding. Yes, some of your teammates will ignore you. Yes, some of them won't react in time, but in general, it will save lives. Trust me. Once you make it a habit, you'll start to see that oftentimes there will be at least 1 other person on your team in solo queue who will start to give useful pings around the map when they see somebody missing, or they'll be informing you of the direction of a roaming enemy. And I'll leave you guys with a tasty bonus tip at the start of the game. Not in all chat, but just in your team chat, type good luck, have fun, or just GLHF. You're not doing this to try to get any extra honors, but sure, that's a perk. It can help with that. This is mainly to set the mood for the game. If anyone on your team is tilted, or if anyone on your team has a neutral mentality, this will help to distill a positive mentality. The reason why you don't want to do this in all chat is you can be perceived as tacky and cheap. Not only that, but you don't want to be giving them any free potential morale boost. Alright guys, that is going to wrap up these 5 tips on how to avoid feeding teammates and how to get the best teammates possible in League of Legends. If you enjoyed these tips and you want to support the channel, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My name is KingStix. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Also, don't forget to join our quarterback team so we can kick pants our dragon's butt.